Story of sage Vishvamitra. Vishvamitra is one of the most important sages of ancient India. Vishvamitra is one of the 7 Brahma Rishis. According to Hindu tradition, he is stated to have written most of the Mandala 3 of the Rigveda, including the Gayatri Mantra. Now let's deep dive into the story. In the Luna dynasty, there was a king named Gadi, whose son was Vishvamitra. Vishvamitra's earlier name was Kaushika. As a king, Kaushika possessed extraordinary qualities and ruled the kingdom very well. Once Vishvamitra went on a tour of his country with a large army. As he was passing through a forest, he came across the hermitage of sage Vashishta. The king entered the ashrama to pay his respects to the sage. The sage, in return, requested the king to accept his hospitality and be his guest for the day. Concerned that the sage would not be able to feed his large army, the king declined his offer. The sage, allaying his fears, persisted with his request, and the king finally consented. The sage called out for his divine cow, Shabala. Shabala arrived at once and awaited the sage's orders. Shabala, the Kamadhenu, was born during the churning of the ocean and was presented to sage Vashishta. Vashishta introduced Vishvamitra to her and asked her to prepare a delicious feast for the king and his entourage. Shabala instantly fulfilled the wishes of the sage, and an elaborate feast appeared before all of them. The king and his army thoroughly enjoyed the special feast. Impressed by Shabala's powers, the king asked Vashishta to present her to him, as he felt that she would be more useful to a king than to a sage. He further added that anything precious in the country belonged to the king and thus staked a claim on Shabala. Vashishta, however, politely declined the king's request, saying that Shabala was inseparable from him. The king was displeased with the response of the sage. He offered huge wealth in the form of cows and elephants ornamented with precious jewels. Vashishta did not yield. Seeing Vashishta defy his orders, Vishvamitra got angry and asked his men to forcefully take Shabala away. Wanting to know the reason for her abandonment, Shabala released herself from the aggressors by force of her own strength and sped towards Vashishta. Vashishta consoled her that he had not abandoned her and gave her the permission to create an army to defeat the opponents. Defeated by the inexhaustible strength of the army brought forth by Shabala, Vishvamitra returned to the kingdom disgraced. Vishvamitra was determined to somehow subdue Vashishta. He handed over his kingdom to one of his sons and went to the Himalayas to perform penance. Pleased with his austerities, Lord Shiva gave Vishvamitra the divine astras as desired by him. With his newly acquired strength, Vishvamitra rushed to Vashishta's ashrama and unleashed his missiles at him. Vashishta understood what was happening and calmly placed his Brahma Danda, the holy staff, in front of him. The holy staff, Brahma Danda, swallowed all the missiles sent by Vishvamitra. Stunned at Vashishta's power of saintliness, Vishvamitra accepted defeat once again and returned with a determination to gain strength which would match Vashishta, the Brahma Rishi. Carrying feelings of shame, anger and hatred, Vishvamitra proceeded towards south and began practicing his austerities in a quiet place. After a lapse of 1,000 years, Brahma appeared before him and conferred upon him the status of a Raja Rishi, a royal sage. He was still not satisfied with this result, so he continued his penance with more vigor.